Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to a new episode of Catitude. Today I would like to talk about a new feature called Assemble that already had some basic functionality in Catitude. But after seeing a posting of Kevin Losner, pretty famous guy in the translation industry and someone I have huge respect for. I've worked with him in the past on writing on translating a manual for beginners. Of MemoQ, another cat tool, and currently our competitor. And he posted this. You can see it right on my screen. MemoQ is the best tool for financial and legal translation, where customized rules like these save enormous time in translation and QA of financial expressions, citations, and much more. And what do we see here? What we basically see here is a feature called Auto Assemble, which is a really neat feature when it comes to translating somewhat robotic text. You know, normally when you translate a text from English to whatever language, in my case, Dutch, you want the translation to be as natural and smooth as possible, right? And for this, we use our machine translation engine. Currently, Catitude supports two of them. One of them is DeepL, but the main translation engine we support is ModernMT, which we think gives the best results and is also adaptive, self-learning, which DeepL isn't. And this mostly results in a pretty fluent translation. But sometimes that's exactly what you don't want. Sometimes you don't want the computer to think. For example, think, well, the text you see here. Case 18, 5 million, euro 45 million, 80 million. Case 19, 7.5 million, etc., etc., etc. This is a very robotic text. Another example of a robotic text is, for example, a specifications table. You know, graphics card, blah, 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 DX version, blah, 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 processor, AMD, blah, 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 etc. These are very robotic texts that don't require thinking. On the contrary, as soon as the computer starts to think, that's where things start going wrong. So, dumb texts require dumb translations. And this is what the feature Auto Assemble, or Assemble as it's called, is used for. So, okay, I've prepared just a very small text to show you how this works. Okay, so normally, you know, when I have this translated by MemoQ, keyboard keys. Well, you know, MemoQ starts to... this is not MemoQ, by the way. Oh, that's really bad. This is Catitude. And when Catitude starts to think, well, first it digs into its memory to see if it can find any sequence of the words keyboard and keys. And then actually, it has found sentences containing just these words. But that's not what we want. We can also just press F2 to ask for a directly generated machine translation. And in this case, the result is actually quite good. Actually, it's correct. I just need to get rid of this space. But suppose the result is not correct. And suppose we have many, many, many lines like these. Keyboard, keys, keyboard, button, button, keys, keyboard, keyboard, function, keys, etc. And we assume our machine translation engine is not trained well enough to translate all of these correctly and precisely. Well, that's where Auto Assemble comes in. Now, Auto Assemble, dump assemble, is basically a tool to translate dump text. Okay, so we want a translation word by word in exactly the same sequence as in English. So here it says keyboard keys. So what I want is the Dutch translation of keyboard and the Dutch translation of keys interspersed with a hyphen. Okay, so when I press F1 for Auto Assemble, it doesn't know the Dutch word for keyboard and it doesn't know the Dutch word for keys. But I can teach Catitude the correct translations of these. So I can just click keyboard, and here I can say toetsenbord, which is Dutch. And now this has been added as a term. Let's see. There it is, keyboard toetsenbord. It says in the terminology window. Okay. When I now press F1, this is what happens. So keyboard has been translated as toetsenbord, while keys is still as is. So we also need to define keys, which we can do like this. Okay. When I now go to the same segment, we have two terms, keyboard as toetsenbord and keys as toetsen. When I now press F1, this is the result. And that's exactly what we want. So I press Ctrl down and we go to the next segment. The automatically generated machine translation is again correct. This engine is really good, but let's assume it's not. So when I now press F1, keyboard translated as toetsenbord, and button, it doesn't know the translation for button, so we add it. Knop. Okay, let's try again. We now have both terms in the terminology window. As you can see, button is marked orange because the target segment does not contain the correct Dutch translation knop for button yet. So Catitude says there may be a mistake, there may be a problem. When I now press F1, I get toetsenbord knop. The orange warning has disappeared and I can go to the next segment. Here it gets slightly more complex, but again, the machine translation engine gets it right. But we assume it does not. All three terms have been defined. When I press F1, there we go. We have a correct translation. Okay. And there is another one. Now, we just miss one term, which is function, which we can define as functie. There we go. When I now go back, all terms have been defined. Function is marked as an error because the Dutch target segment does not contain the Dutch translation functie yet. When I now press F1, there we go. We have a correct translation. Okay. Now, this is basic assembly, but this is where it becomes interesting. So we have the sentence. This sentence contains the number 1000 for an assembly test. And it's been translated as deze zin bevat het nummer 1000 voor een assemblagetest, which is actually a good translation. But let's assume it's not. Yeah? Okay, let's assume our translation engine has not been trained well enough yet. The problem here is when I press F1, the number 1000 is copied directly to the target segment. But in Dutch, for numbers containing only 4 digits, we normally do not use this separator. We just write the numbers like this. So I want to give Catitude a rule saying that 4-digit numbers containing a comma after the first position should have the same number without a comma. Well, for this we can use a language called RegEx. RegEx is short for regular expressions. And this is a very complicated language, but there are countless tutorials on the internet that can teach you how this works. So you can learn this for yourself, or you can just assume that what I'm going to show you is correct. So let's add this rule. I press the regex filter button. We don't need it. Here is the Assembly RegEx window, and I want to start editing. Okay, so I want to search, and once more, I assume you know regex, else you just have to believe me. We have a word with a start and an end. And the word contains one group consisting of 1 digit, followed by a comma, and then once more, one group, followed by 3 digits. And we want to translate this as group 1 without comma, and then group 2. Okay, this has now been added. Let's see what happens. Nothing. Okay, so I probably made a mistake somewhere. Let's see. We have the beginning of a word, a digit, 1 digit, then a comma, then 3 digits, and then the end of the word. So that looks good. So where is my mistake? What is my mistake? What is the problem? Oh, that looks good. That looks good. Oh, it's actually correct. Sorry. Yes, I was assuming that in Dutch we need a comma, but we don't need a comma. It's disappeared. So Catitude is doing exactly what we wanted to do. Okay, this is good. Let's not add this sentence to the memory because it still contains English and I don't feel translating it right now. Okay, that's interesting that Catitude was actually working more smoothly than I thought. Okay, so here's the next one. The machine translation engine gets it right, but we assume it does not. Okay, so when I press F1 for assembly, we get this number. But the thing is that in Dutch, as soon as the number contains more than 4 digits, we actually want to have this decimal separator right over there. So we need to add a new rule. We have a word consisting of one group of digits containing 2 or 3 digits, followed by nothing, and then followed by another group containing 3 digits. And this should be translated as group 1, comma, no, sorry, full stop, and then the second group. Let's see. Okay. The next one is this one. Once more, we assume AutoAssembly is not. We assume the translation engine is not correct, and we press F1, and we notice that now in Dutch, comma is used as a decimal separator, and this we do not want. We want this to render like this. So let's just delete this, and let's add another rule. Beginning of word, end of word. We have one group of 2 or 3 digits, followed by a comma, and then another group consisting of 3 digits. And this should be replaced by group 1, and then a full stop, and then group 2. Add. That's what we want. Okay. So when I now press F1, oh, that's not good. Let's see what happened there. Closing parameters missing. So that means there is a mistake in my regex. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Because I forgot to add these parentheses. So you see, this error still needs some work. This is not very user-friendly. So that's something I can do later. Well, voila, there we go. We have a 5-digit number containing the full stop as a decimal separator. And last but not least, this one. The engine once more gets it right, but we assume it does not. So here we basically have the same, but this time without any decimal separator in English. And that too has to be translated like this. There we go. Let's see what happens. I press F1. Nothing happens. Why is that? Let's see. Where's my mistake? The thing with regex is you always make a mistake. You never get it right at once. This is a very famous problem. And there are even regex test sites where you can actually test your regex before using it. But, I mean, as Catitude is implementing all of this live, you may not even need to go to such environments. Okay, so first we have 2 or 3 digits. Followed by not... but wait. We have 3 groups, actually. So in this case, we should use this. We have one group of... And it's just a group of 1 digit in this case. Okay, so we have a group of 1 digit, followed by a group of 3 digits, followed by another group of 3 digits. And we want to translate this as group 1, full stop, group 2, full stop, group 3. Let's see what happens. There you go. So that's how it works. And these are very easy regex rules, and I made them pretty simple just to show you how this works. But you can make them much, much longer and much more complex. If you know regex, you know that basically anything is possible. Theoretically, you could even build a translation engine fully based on regex, though that would be your life work. It would not be very efficient, and it would be absolutely hellish and nightmarish. But theoretically, yes, it's possible. This feature was implemented basically within 2 days. It was not that hard to implement. So it really is not that advanced as you may think. There's still some polishing to do. You saw the error message, which was not very user-friendly. That's very easy to catch. But as you can see, the possibilities in Catitude are endless, and based on user feedback, it's also very easy to expand functionality. We do not rely on external programmer teams. We do not wait on external programmer teams to finish whatever business they have. And basically, we have our own programmers, you know, our own staff that can program 24 hours a day if needed. And that ensures that functionality you want is implemented pretty quickly. There's no need to wait for when the programmer's team is ready. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and hopefully I see you next time. Have a good day.